everyone, and welcome to the Medieval miniseries. My name is Matt Catter, and welcome to my channel. So today we are starting out with the Barnes Manors. The Barnes Manor is one of the few manors that I'll be creating for this world. I believe I have one other that I created, which is already up on my gallery, as is this one. If you want to see my gallery, my name is Dreamerblah on the gallery for Sims 4. Now, this is for the Medieval mini-series, which I have linked above right now. Throughout this series, I'm just going through Hinford on Bagley, creating different medieval builds, so that way it fits more into the style of the Decades Challenge that I'm aiming for, which I will be following Kosmic Hippie's rules for, which, again, her channel will be linked below, as well as the rules for her version of the not the Medieval mini-series, her version of the Decades Challenge. So let's go ahead and hop into this video. For the Barnes Manor, I was mostly inspired by the idea that it's a medieval manor that is very fancy and very pretty and big and very large, but they are hiding the fact that they are losing their wealth. They are not as wealthy as they once was. So whenever I'm creating the outside of it and whenever I create the bottom floor, I try to make it look as pretty and opulent as I possibly can, because they're meant to have a lot of money as nobles, but they themselves have lost a lot of it. Now with the outside, I was also going for more of an idyllic type of look, like a very French countryside, almost more maybe inspired look, where there's lots of gardens and prettiness, and it almost looks a little bit like a castle, but it's not a castle, it's a manor. Mostly because the main character within this family for the Barnes Manor is a young girl who just basically is a bookworm and loves to dream of marrying the prince, and I liked the idea that her house kind of fit that as well. So with this manor, I actually had a lot of fun trying to decide what I was doing for it originally. I had a lot of ideas inspired off of just searching up Google search of images and looking up different houses and manors that would have been classified as medieval, and then I looked up French countryside, and well, I just had a lot of trouble deciding how it's going to look. But I eventually decided that it was based more so off of the idea that it was a castle and that they were very wealthy at that point, probably the most wealthy, and so they had more of a castle-esque look and feel to the house. This took me forever, and eventually I started getting there. Surprisingly, not really. The thing that mostly got me there was starting to figure out the greenery. Whenever I started doing that, it just clicked in my head, which is usually how it works for me. So between these windows, I really wanted a column or something to go right there, but I could not find an actual column to fit there because I placed the windows a little bit weirdly, and because of that, just no columns would fit right between them with the placement grid. So instead, I found these, I think they're a wall decoration item, and they're from the Jungle Explorer pack. The Jungle Adventure pack, and I've used them in just about every build, I think. They're really perfect for some reason for the medieval style. And then here I'm actually going in and I'm trying to figure out the staircase for the house. I wanted it to be very grand because I was still going off the idea that they once had a ton of money. So I was trying to make these stairs look very grand for the entrance of it, but everything I tried just didn't work, and it felt like it was taking up too much space because of the sizing of the house and the way that this room is set up. And instead, I started working more so with just a single staircase that just goes straight up. It's still grand, but it's not the most grand, obviously. So as you can see here, I kind of took a break from working on the outside of the house to start working more so on the interior layout of the house. I had a few ideas that I wanted for the bottom floor and the second floor. I had like a bare minimum kind of idea. I knew I wanted those windows to be a single room, and I knew that I wanted like a hallway to connect everything rather than it being just open, because in my head I always pictured it as being a lot more closed off and like smaller rooms and just hallways going everywhere and not too much of just open space. Alright, so here is me finally kind of fixing up the outside, making it look a little bit better. I decided to add in a little garden for probably where she, mostly the main woman that owns this house, or I guess she's the daughter of the people that own this house, but I had her create like a little garden space where she gardens and where she reads. It's meant to be very like picturesque and pretty and calm. I picture her as a very sullen character, I guess, in a way, but also just quiet. Here's where I start adding in the barn, and I originally wasn't going to make one, but for some reason it just kind of suited the manor pretty well, and I thought it made sense for the nobles to have, if they were so rich at one point, to have their own stables as well. So whenever I was creating this little area here, it was kind of out of nowhere, and honestly, I still love how it turned out, but it was fun to try to figure it out. I was sitting there messing with like the wallpaper for a long time. I kept it as this wood. I couldn't decide on if I liked that roof or if I wanted to instead make it more shabby or if I wanted to make it more prim and proper, I guess. But I did add this in, and I'm happy with how it changed the outside layout of the house. finally on to the interior. So I've, of course, started out with the grand entrance. I really wanted to make sure it looked somewhat grand. I had these big wardrobes placed in and these beautiful little tables, and I will admit, as I'm going around decorating the first floor specifically, I think I kind of let the medieval kind of get switched out with a more recent, maybe more Renaissance-esque, I guess, style. So there are aspects of medieval, but like I keep adding things that I'm like, that I look back now and I'm like, oh, that might not quite fit. And especially with this room, I had trouble deciding what I wanted because it was meant to be like an entertainment room for guests, for visitors. This is where they would hold a little entrance before they maybe go into the ballroom, because there is a ballroom in this house. However, I started going almost a little too grand, and I didn't like how it looked. I felt like it needed to be a little bit more simple than where I was going, because I was thinking of the grand castle idea, and then I was like, let's calm that down a little bit. So this is not how it stays, especially because it caused an issue with the windows glitching. But yeah, I like this room a lot, honestly. I'd say it's probably the most medieval looking room of the house. As you guys can tell, I maybe am relating a little too hard with this character at some points because I made her this grand library as though she's in Beauty and the Beast, and well, I mean, who doesn't want a grand library where they can act like they're from Beauty and the Beast? So I kind of just gave her this one on purpose. I don't think any of my other houses have a grand library like this other than the castle, which that's a sneak peek. I don't think you guys have actually seen me make the library for the castle yet, but honestly, I like her library almost a bit better. It reminds me a lot more of the Beauty and the Beast library as well, and I like the stories on it. I think it's really pretty. Beside the grand library, we actually have the office for the father of her. So I guess I could kind of explain a little bit about what's going on with these characters. It's really just a girl and her dad, and they lost her mom like a while ago. He was never able to get any heirs, he never remarried. So she is his heir, basically, and she is probably like his pride. He definitely spends most of his money trying to keep her happy whenever he is able to do anything. I think he's a very doting father. But I also think that he is trying very hard to marry her off. It's just so that way he can have the estate be looked after by a man and it can't be taken away from her. As we're working on the hallway here, I actually had a lot of trouble deciding what I wanted the hallway to look like, but you were spared from most of my humming and hawing over the hallway because I switch over to the kitchen pretty quickly. Back there, by the way, you did see me find the sundial from the werewolves pack, and I added it to the garden because it was kind of perfect, and honestly I kind of forgot to add it to any other build. But their kitchen is very grand, as you can tell. It is meant to kind of be almost on par with the castle kitchen. I almost think it's a little bit, not bigger per se, but just more well laid out than the castle. As I'm going through here, you see me making a lot of comparisons with the castle, because that's kind of just what I was more so inspired by as I was doing the interior, was the castle. I had just finished, I think, the castle at this point. So a lot of my decorating here was kind of inspired from what I had done in the castle. There's also a place for all the servants to eat, all those servants that they don't have. So, yeah. are finally onto the ballroom / dining area for visitors and guests and parties that they hold. This is meant to look a lot more grand, especially because this is where a lot of their money goes to in order to keep up the appearances of being very well off still. So a lot of this is me trying to make like a stage and make it look very opulent in comparison to, I think, just about the rest of the house. There are some little tails, I think. I think I tried to keep things a little bit older looking, as though maybe it was created a while ago. That stage is meant to be wood, and I don't remember if I actually ever went back and fixed that. So if you're playing with this house and you see that, you can change that to wood if you want to, because I genuinely forgot to. But I also had like a little grand fireplace, a little dance floor. I just made it look like there was a lot going on, and this was kind of one of the main rooms of the house. From there, we move on to the upper floor. And as I'm going about the upper floor, I actually decided to go and fix some of the hallways because I realized I hadn't done anything with the hallways. I tried to keep them pretty empty for the most part. Also, for some reason, a lot of my stuff got deleted, so I was fixing that. As I'm going through here, I start actually not with this main entrance up to the upstairs. I start with the library. I fix that and finish it off. It has a little balcony area that I think is quite pretty. And yeah, it's just a little continuation of the upstairs. We are now on to a kind of weird addition to the house. I have a little seance table because I like to imagine that the mother kind of haunts them in a way. They also have the altar to her mom in this room. Obviously, they don't have photos here, so I get rid of that photo frame immediately. But I do try to make it look as though it is kind of just a dedication to her mom within the house. I didn't show you too much more because it gets like a little wiggly with my camera, with me trying to place everything in that tiny room. But here we are going back to the grand entrance to the upstairs. Again, I tried to make this look more prominent than most of the rest of the house that you'll see, just because it is meant to be more of that kind of hiding of their unfortunate situation regarding money. This is the family room for them. So this one obviously has some nicer furniture, but I made sure to add in like a worn out rug, and some of the decorations don't look quite as nice as maybe the rest of the house. I did have a piano added in here, like their own private organ, not piano. And I also made sure that they had little decorations up everywhere, little heirlooms from times that have passed for them. And I just genuinely try to make it a little bit more worn than maybe the rest of the house. I don't know if you guys can tell so far, but I definitely think that I'm kind of prioritizing the daughter in this house. I really like the character, and I like the idea of the character. She just seems very silly and young, and I think it's really cute. But in this part of the house, I went ahead and made her have in my opinion, the best room because it has the prettiest windows in the house. So she's in this little corner bit, and she has nicer furniture. The door is a little worn, but she does have her own bathroom, and she has some of her own private space that I think kind of fits more of the vibe of that more whimsical nature of hers. After finishing off the daughter's bedroom, I decided to make the parents' room. This is obviously the single father's, but I went kind of by the idea that maybe his wife decorated it and he's just living in it. Again, it's one of the nicer rooms in the house because it is obviously the main Baron's house. And he has a nice little fireplace of his own. I think she did too, but he has this little fireplace where he can sit by and work on his stuff. And there was 2 chairs there because he had a wife before this, and he kept a lot of those decorations from when she decorated it. He also has the most interesting bathroom, in my opinion. You see me having a lot of trouble messing with it. I think I actually cut out a good bit of what I did with the bathroom because it was just kind of finicky trying to set it up. I didn't want it to be a room because it kind of cut into that window, so I ended up just like creating another level with the platform and putting it up on a platform right there. So there for a second you saw it, but I'll show you again a little bit better in the end of the video when I go into the live edit mode. I wasn't going to add in another nicer room, but I felt like they should have a guest room just because I had an extra space available for a guest. So I made this the guest room, and it is a lot smaller than just about every room in the house, but I also made sure it looked like they put the most time and effort to having the nicest decor in it. Again, to sell a little bit of that, yes, we still have money, what are you talking about? And he even has his own little desk in here, or they or whoever's visiting and staying over for a night. After creating the guest room, I had another room that I was trying to figure out what to do with, and I decided instead of it being a guest room, I actually went ahead and made it a servant's room. It's a very well-treated servant. They have their own bathroom, their own bed, it's a nicer bed, and they have a little rug that's a little bit worn down. But the idea is that they have one live-in servant, maybe a butler, or I'm not sure what type of servant it is, but it's a live-in servant that lives with them that is very prized to the daughter, maybe not the father as much, but definitely the daughter because he basically helped to raise her. And he has a very nice room because of all the years he's put in towards helping the family. We are now on to the nursery. Now, I did kind of just make this room in case you guys wanted to use it, and I wanted an excuse to have this room have something going on that makes more sense than just another bedroom. So it's a nursery. It's her nursery from whenever she was a child and whenever her father was a child, and however many generations have lived there when they were children. It's their main nursery. Because of that, I think I add in some cracks in the walls and such at the end just to make it look a lot more decrepit than it otherwise would appear. And I made sure to use furniture that didn't look the nicest, but also was obviously from money. Alright, so we are now getting to the end of my actual building of the house, and I'm finishing off with this bathroom here that's kind of a big guest bathroom. Anyone can use it, or the main bathroom for everyone. But let's go ahead and jump into live mode. Hi everyone, and welcome to live mode. Let's go ahead and start looking at the Barnes Manor. So over here we have the stables. Now you enter in through here, and I forgot to change this wallpaper interior. That might not make sense with the brick, but we'll if you download it, you can change that yourself if you want. And then over this way, we have the well for them to gather up their water, as I placed at just about every house, I think, that I've built. And then we have the beautiful little garden here with the sundial as well. We also have cute little sitting places for her to read. And if we head into the castle now, we don't have anything else going on here. And then in the grand entranceway. So looking at this, there are a few things I forgot. I forgot to put the ceiling on, and I forgot to change some of the wallpapers and flooring. I apologize. They shouldn't be the biggest deals, because I can't imagine you playing this house too much within this mode. But if you want to replace them, those are the things that I forgot. So from the grand entrance, we go into the grand entertainment room, I would say. I still tried to make it look very fancy, obviously, but it's a lot more simplistic. I think when I started getting away from the medieval style was when I started adding certain paintings in that probably didn't make sense for the time period. In the library, where we have Mr. Locke, our helpful buddy, to help us explore the house, we have the grand library with the big balcony over it. We also have the beautiful, big, grand space. It's kind of empty, I think, but I like it a lot. I think it looks very pretty. The shelves are filled with, like, different lights and stuff. It looks very lit up and pretty in here, in my opinion. Through this door, we have the office. This is the final product of the office with the rug and everything placed down, and the little notebook that you can replace with whatever you prefer to replace it with, and a map of the country. Alright, heading back through the library here, let's go into the hallway. I did not put as much decoration and thought as I did to this initial little bit, because this is kind of the entrance into it, but the rest is very blank and kind of empty looking. I spend so much time decorating certain houses that there is certain rooms that I try to purposely not make as much going on. Hallways are a big example of me usually trying to avoid putting in a lot. So heading through the hallways, I'll go ahead and show you the grand ballroom. I did 100% forget to add the wood in. I apologize about that. Feel free to add that back in if you want. But we have this beautiful ballroom with the fire going and the candles and the dinner space. I think it's kind of perfect for their level of nobility, honestly, and it does still look rather opulent for being older. Through here we have the grand kitchen. Again, I honestly really love the layout of this kitchen. I think it's one of my favorite medieval kitchens I've actually built. Very simplistic, but it has a lot going on, I feel like, and it just seems more homey than I think most of the kitchens that I've made. Alright, so now that we're back at the grand entrance here, let's head up the staircase and look around. I have a beautiful little seating section over there that just makes it look a little bit fancier. Again, more for people that are visiting than for them to use. We have this beautiful little addition to the top of the library where they can look over and see the big windows and all the greenery and the books and everything. And you can even watch and spy on Mr. Locke reading a book. Through this room, we have the seance room / altar to her mom. I feel like this was an important room to add, and I felt like it just was a very sweet room for them to have dedicated. Oh, Mr. Locke's showing us the way. We're going through the hallway now and into the family room. Now this is kind of empty because I couldn't find a lot of things that I felt like made sense for it, but they have kind of older furniture is my idea. A lot of stuff from, like, many years past that they've just kept and hung on to, and that's part of why it's so empty. This, I don't think is very medieval, but it's a painting, so I just decided to add it rather than add other things in. Now, if we head back out here, we can see maybe the original family that lived here, one of their portraits, and then you head into here and we have the nursery. I think the nursery is very cute, very simple. Again, it's probably a little bit more going on than the other rooms, but I imagine that they haven't changed this from the time that the daughter was a baby. And as you can tell, I actually decorated these hallways more than the ones downstairs. I think that's a little bit of an oversight over me, because obviously they decorate the ones downstairs more, but it's okay. In here is the main bathroom for if anyone needs to use the restroom in the house. And we head back through this door. Oh, high lock jump scare. Okay. Then we head in here and we have the guest bedroom. Now again, I kind of added in the furniture to look a little bit nicer and as though it's for a guest and they're trying to hide their secrets. And here we have the daughter's bedroom. There's beautiful little plants hanging around just for scent maybe, and a little reading nook in the corner, and just a desk and a nice bathtub bathroom. Alright, and then into this room, we have the servants' room, which again, as I said, they have pretty much one main servant, and that main servant takes care of everything for them. You can tell that the bathtub's a little bit jankier than maybe the rest of the house, and they have some nice things going on, but they also have their cleaning supplies in this room, things like that. And down this hallway, it's a little bit more grand because we're entering the Baron's room. This is the main suite of the house, so it is meant to look a lot more opulent than a lot of the house, in my opinion. I think it matches, honestly. I don't think it's more opulent, but I do think that it hits that characteristic of we were once wealthy, and this is what it looked like when we were wealthy. But with that, we are done with the tour of the house. With the tour being finished, that's the end of this video. If you guys want to check it out on the gallery, make sure to look up my name on the gallery, which is Dreamerblah. But my actual name is Kat, and I am Mad Catter. Please make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to follow along with this series. And I will see you guys next time.